Tell me about your vision.
Thank you so much. So, really, my vision is all about supporting women to ditch the 9 to 5 and live life on their terms. So, really, more about breaking free from societal norms. And society tells us that we go to school, we go to university, we get a good job, and then you retire. So,
Mm,
really, what I've seen is that we don't need to wait until we retire to enjoy our life and to live life how we choose to. So it's really about sharing the vision with women to know that they can have a flexible life, that
mm,
they can still have a career, they can still run a successful business and still be present for their family. And I think
mm.
that's really the most important thing is presence for your family and also the flexibility to go wherever, whenever, and on your own terms as well.
Tell me more about that. It's a pretty broad term that can apply to a lot of people. Why did you specifically choose women, and um, why and how you got along this journey? I'd love to hear more your thoughts.
Yeah, so organically it happened that I drew in women. I do have some men as clients, and it was just because of the way that I showed up and the way that I spoke about my own experience that attracted women. So I actually had my daughter on my own. I went and by the time I was 32, I hadn't met the one that I wanted to be with, so I decided to go and have my daughter on my own. And what that presented for me was the I guess the need, but also the desire to not not provide her with a life that she deserves. And being a one income household, it's certainly more apparent to be able to provide for her and give her the experiences that maybe a two income family could provide. And it's something that kind of happened organically over time and something I fell into because of COVID. So I had had a very long 25-year career in hospitality and events and working in hotels all over Australia and overseas. And when COVID happened, the entire industry shut down. The hotel that I was working in at the time was the very first hotel in the country to enter their quarantine program because in Australia, we all were bound to hotel quarantine when we came back in from overseas. So very early on, actually only just after I went back from maternity leave, was there no industry and no job. So through random ins and outs of trying to stay in other jobs because everywhere kept on closing and things like that, I found this beautiful space in the online industry. And essentially all I did was use all of the skills and experience that I had, and I created my own virtual assistant business. And that really just took off really quickly. And because of the flexibility that I created, I was just like, I really felt like I tapped into something and I really wanted to share that vision with women all over the country. And now I've got some clients worldwide that this is another option to the 9 to 5, and you can earn more money than your 9 to 5. So that's really where the whole vision started and really where I get to do what I love now.
Hmm. Um, it's interesting that you mentioned virtual assistants because um, we have three teams, and I think fourth and fifth coming up soon throughout the world. Uh, Predominantly, our team is based out of Latin America, and we have a team based out of Philippines, and we have I think two people we hired from Pakistan, and one coming very soon, which I'm in charge of. We're opening up in India, and I think hopefully some part of Europe as well in the future. Um, so the way I understand virtual assistant and the way I think you've explained to me, I think I have a very different understanding. How does that virtual assistant business relate to being free from a 9 to 5 in your terms, and what do you mean by that? I would love to hear what exactly it is that you do.
Yeah, great. So what I've discovered, there is lots of different definitions and lots of different ways that you can hire a virtual assistant, whether that be a full-time virtual assistant from an agency. Similar in Australia, we have a lot of offshore agencies and predominantly from the Philippines.
Hmm.
And that's really at a low cost, I guess, a lot less skill level. And a lot of times they hire them full time to come and sort of replace the need for a full-time employee. What we do, and the clients that I have in the virtual assistant business and the clients that I teach in Australia, is really about that, let's say, higher level executive that has predominantly worked in a typical 9 to 5. Maybe they're an executive assistant or a personal assistant, and they're using their existing skills and mapping it across to being a CEO of their own business and offering those skills to business owners. And specifically because of their experience, and a lot of them have gone to university, a lot of them similar to me have got 25 years experience in their industry, is actually providing them at the top end of the market. So not competing with, say, the $5-10 down at the Philippines. We sort of work within the $100 to $150 per hour, and being niched on experience and niched on service to allow that business owner to actually really grow and really scale their business, because you're having all those expertise that come in as a collaboration. So it's very different in terms of the level of support, the level of initiative, and the level of work that is done. But for the business owner going into this space, it's not binding their time by the business owner. It is that flexible arrangement. So you might work with 3 or 4 businesses, and you would commit to, say, a minimum amount of hours per week or a minimum hours per month. And you would actually do those hours on your own terms. So just say it was a 10-hour a week for one client. The hours that you do that 10 hours is actually all down to us as the VA business owner. It's not down to the person that's essentially hiring our services. So it's more like hiring, if you want to use the term to compare it, like a marketing agency or an ad agency or something like that. You wouldn't dictate the hours and specifically what they work. So it's a little bit more of a partnership type of business to business arrangement than more of a business to a subcontractor type of arrangement.
I kind of understand it, but I really don't understand most of it. But I think I've had more conversation about it. Maybe I'll get to the bottom of it.
Sure.
So let's move away from the what and the how, and then go to the who and the why. Um, so why did you get into this building, and why what gets you out of bed every morning to keep doing this?
Yeah, so I guess when I started my business, it was actually because I met with an old colleague from the hotel industry outside of a coffee shop when we weren't allowed inside the coffee shop. And we just had a coffee, and I was just picking her brain. What are you doing now? You seem to not really be doing that much at all. And she said that she was working as a virtual assistant, and she got paid more than she did in 3 days than she did in her 5-day hotel job. So that
Mm,
really spiked my interest. So it was really because of her that I jumped into it. And all she had really done was planted the seed of the opportunity and added me to a couple of Facebook groups. Now, I kind of watched the space for 6 months, and then when there was one week in my job that wasn't really having much fun, extremely micromanaged, and I noticed that there was quite a lot of people looking for support. So I
mhm,
just dove in head first, secured my first client in 24 hours, resigned from my full-time job in a week, and I was fully booked in 3 weeks. So it
mhm,
kind of snowballed really quickly. And then within about 4 months, and this was before I knew that there was such thing as a business coach, because I didn't know that you could get a business coach then. But about month 4 in my virtual assistant business, I realized that this was an opportunity that I wanted to share with other women so that they could also create their own businesses and have that freedom and flexibility to choose when they work and who they work with as well. So I started coaching at 4 months into my business, and
mhm,
just essentially showing other women on how to set up their own business. And then, fast forward probably 2 or 3, it was probably 2 years later than that, I really decided that coaching and helping women was
mhm,
what drove me. That really got me out of bed. Seeing them quit their 9 to 5, seeing them create their own business, seeing them make way more money than they did in their 9 to 5, that was enough for me to be like, coaching is all in for me. And a lot of the clients that we had in the virtual assistant business, I gave them to the team to go and actually run them within their own business. And now 99% of what I do is about supporting women to not only build their business, but also once they built it, is how to actually scale it so that it's a long-standing, thriving business that's not just a side hustle, essentially.
mm. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go to one more layer deep in this. I would love to hear some of those stories that pertain to your why, or maybe some of the experience you've had those women. I'd love to hear those.
Yeah, so very early on, I realized the impact that it had on their family life, and the
Mm,
fact that they didn't have to go back to the office, that they could stay home with their little ones that much more. And that was pretty cool because I had to go back to work. I had to go back to work full time it was 6 months. 6 months of the day, I had to go back after having my daughter, and there was no flexibility given to me. I was in a sales role and I still couldn't even do a day from home doing sales calls. It was very, you want your job, you come back in the same capacity. And I know that there's so many other women out there that they're forced to put their kids in childcare, or they're forced to just have to go back to work. Whereas this opportunity can actually provide them with, still a couple of days of work in the beginning whilst their kids are young, and they can always increase and build that thriving business when the time came. And then the story started to come out, even money wise. I had clients saying, I just cannot fathom the amount of money that I'm making, and I'm paying off credit cards. I'm now being able to provide my kids more presents for Christmas. Like all of that, I was just like, this is the work. This is the work, because if they've come from a family that's struggled for money, or if they've taken time off to have kids, they're always on the back burner in terms of money. So those stories are really what got me to where I was. And because of the experience that I had when I went back to work, no flexibility, no allowances for school pickup or school drop-offs. It's, here's your job, that take it or leave it. And I think that's a very much a one-track minded. I know a lot of that has now changed since COVID, and a lot of those companies now have, you can pick a day and you can work anywhere you like, or they're very much tailoring the work hours to suit women. But I think, why did it take a global pandemic for us to get there? And I think that the 9 to 5 industry still has a long way to go in terms of providing flexibility to families.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Because a lot of times people, they really want to share that. They want to chase that freedom that most times people can't get. So how many times that people don't enjoy times with their families because some things that come up, or there's not enough boundaries in a workplace, or there's not flexibility, and people struggle through it, and they have to choose between providing for their family, putting food on the table, or quality time, which it's a hard choice for most people to do. So that's awesome. That's great that your work can do that. So thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
When it comes to your vision, Sasha, where do you think that you're going with your vision? If you could see it going in the future somewhere, or imagining getting it bigger, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road. If you haven't thought about that, that's fine too. But if you have, we'd love to hear your thoughts on where you're going and exploring with your vision now.
Yeah, I've definitely thought about it. This is my life now, so it's always about how can we impact more people. And I really see myself talking on really big stages to room full of people, to really just help them to know that there's actually more to life, and they can actually choose how they live their life. And I think that's really where the change is once they realize that they don't have to live the way that society tells us, or they can believe in themselves to go and reinvent themselves, or to go and change the trajectory of their life. I think that's really where the work is. And the way to do that is by speaking on stages, motivating, it's even women, men and women, to really honor themselves and actually give themselves and their family actually this amazing life. Because one, everybody deserves to have it, everybody's also worthy enough to have it, and they just
Mhm.
have to decide to go and get it. And the problem is, because a lot of generational trauma and what society tells us, everyone's playing small because they
Correct.
don't know that they can do anything else. So it's more about just sharing with them the vision that they can break free from the 9 to 5, and they can go and create whatever they want to create and live life essentially on their terms, not by somebody else's.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.